So, what will I do as a reference movement? Martina's standing up, so is Simon. I don't think it'll be a standing reference. Why don't you lie down on your back? At the end of the lesson, you each have to think of what I could have done as a reference movement. Okay, that's the task. Lost in space. Take your attention to your hips. That's a really strange thing to say because the hips are so difficult to feel. Like, where are they? You can see it in your mind's eye, maybe the hip. But what does it feel like? Can you move your hip on the right leg? Can you move the hip inwards? Can you rotate it inwards from the hip joint? Even if it's just the beginning of the movement. And as you rotate your right hip inwards, what's happening in your pelvis? So you're just rolling the hip inwards. You're not necessarily engaging the pelvis, but it might move as a result of rolling your right hip inwards. Or I could say roll your leg inwards, but from your knee. So think of the leg as having three joints, the ankle, the knee, and the hip joint. You can start the movement of rolling the leg in from the hip, but try it from the knee. Just the right leg to start with. Now, for some people, that might be a lot easier, a lot clearer. The leg stays straight, and you just rotate the leg inwards from the knee. Are you working too hard? Now rotate the right leg inwards, but from your ankle and foot. Let the movement begin in the right foot. It's just like three links in a chain. A hip, a knee, and a foot. Of those three initiating movements, which is the one that you feel is the easiest for you and the clearest, the lightest, the smoothest? And then leave it alone. Take your attention to your left hip. Think of the three joints in the leg and begin to roll your left hip inwards. The hip takes the femur takes the knee takes the foot. And straight away you may feel that there's quite a difference between this hip and the previous one. One might feel as if it works harder or less. And then slide your attention down to your knee and begin the rolling of the leg, the left leg inwards from the knee joint. And then from the foot, from the ankle. Okay. So leave it and roll on your tummy, please. And point your nose to the right. You're lying on your left ear. Your right hand is up somewhere comfortable. And your left arm is down beside you. If you've got earrings or anything that's near your face that might be in the way, it might be a good idea to remove them now. Begin to roll your pelvis to the left. Many small movements. Just roll your pelvis to the left. And back to neutral, and then roll the pelvis to the left again. Your legs are long. Your legs are long and straight. And then roll your pelvis with a different intention, and that is to roll your pelvis to the left until your right knee begins to soften and bend a little bit. So you kind of roll over your toes and the two heels go to the left. The right knee begins to soften and bend. By rolling your pelvis to the left, you make a bit of space underneath the right hip joint. And in many small approximations, lightly drag your knee along the floor. Small movements to begin with, and then straighten the leg down again. So be clear that you begin the movement of the leg in the pelvis. The foot slides with the knee. And you slowly, comfortably bring the knee higher, where the knee is almost opposite the hip joint, the right hip. So if you were lying in bed and you wanted to lie on your tummy, that's more or less the position that I'm suggesting. Make yourself comfortable in this position and stay there. Take all the time that you need. Feel how you breathe. Make any adjustments with your right arm if you need to. Shift your head. But make yourself comfortable and stay with your knee up like this. Now, in this position, could you please begin to lift your right heel off the floor? Just the heel. Just the heel, not the toes, not the whole foot. Just lift your heel, the right heel, away from the floor, and then softly put the foot back again. And just observe how the movement travels from your foot into your ankle. Then you've got the two bones in your lower leg that attach to your knee. And then you've got the femur that goes into your hip joint. Can you feel at this point in the lesson a movement of your hip joint as you lift your right heel? Or is it just the movement of the heel in the foot? Or a movement of the heel in the knee? And then Put your heel down again and see if you can lift your toes. So you'll go back onto the heel and just lift the toes. It's the opposite to what you've just done. Lift the toes and put them down. You stay on the heel the whole time. And then seesaw from heel to toe. Slow down. Feel the movement in your hip. Maybe even your lower back. Rest. So you can, I often suggest to my students when we're doing a lesson like this with the head to the side, rest with your head in the opposite way so your neck doesn't get stiff. And go back to lying with your nose pointing to the right, your right arm up, left arm down comfortably behind you. Slide your leg up, the right leg. And you've lifted your heel, then you lifted your toes. Now, can you lift the lower leg off the floor? And down again. The knee stays down, but the foot lifts off the floor. The lower leg detaches from the floor. And this is a pretty big movement in the hip joint, so now you can maybe feel a bit clearer the movement in your pelvis and hip. Definitely do not strain. The knee does need to stay on the floor for this part of the lesson. So feel like where does the movement finish for you without forcing anything? What's the level that your foot lifts away from the floor in a comfortable way? It's as though you're thinking about rolling onto the knee itself, lifting the foot in the direction of the ceiling. Catch yourself trying too hard. Just stay in a comfortable zone and lifting the foot, going on to the right knee a little bit. There are all kinds of adjustments that need to happen in the pelvis, the tailbone, the sacroiliac joint, the rib cage, the spine. How can you rearrange things so that you could lift your foot to the point where the sole of the foot is parallel to the ceiling? What needs to happen? Many, many things need to happen. What happens in the left leg, the long leg? What could happen in the pelvis? It's a puzzle. Where does your pubic bone go? What happens to the left ankle? Keep it easy. How do you breathe when you lift the leg, the lower leg? Do you breathe in as you lift the foot? Do you breathe out as you lift the foot? Try holding your breath and lifting the foot. All right. Lengthen your legs, turn on your back, and take a rest. Notice if your legs are lying differently. Roll your right leg in from the hip joint and see what it is that might feel different now, the way that you do it. The quality of the movement, the weight of the leg, just the right leg. Can you be more precise about rolling in from the knee now? And then the foot? All right, just rest. In one smooth, simple movement, plan the movement in your head before you do this. You're going to roll onto your belly so that your face is looking to the left this time. Your left arm will be up, the right arm will be down. Your legs will be long. How can you do this in one really simple movement? You'll end up on your tummy with your face pointing to the left. Left arm up, right arm behind you. Very good. And then you might have to shuffle back onto your mat. The right arm is down. The left arm is up. The nose points to the left. The legs are long. The legs are straight. Lengthen your left leg. Okay, any other ways I could say this? Begin to roll your pelvis to the right. Okay, so some of you are jumping ahead because you're anticipating the next movement, but I might trick you. Move your pelvis to the right. Roll your pelvis so that you have more weight in the front of the right side of the pelvis. And there's an organic moment when both of your heels roll to the right and the left knee softens, changes the shape of the leg, invites bending of the left knee. And slowly, as if this was the first time in your life that you had done this movement, slowly begin to drag along the floor, the left knee, the left foot, by rolling the pelvis to the right. Feel the moment. And then augment the size of the movement, augment the range of the sliding of the knee. Can you follow the movement of your tailbone at the same movement as you follow the movement of your left knee? Can you keep track of two things at the same time? The front of your body and the back of your body. Where does your tailbone go as your knee creeps up? Until you find a really comfortable Goldilocks place for your left knee. If you were on your own bed, and breathe and rest in this position with your knee bent. Find comfort. And then begin to lift your toes. Make it small. You know, the smaller the movement, the more finesse there is in your attention, your awareness is so different if you make the movement small. Is there any connection between what you're doing with your foot and the left hip joint? What do you imagine is happening in the joint of the hip? Which way is the ball turning? The ball of the hip. And now lift your heel. Just slowly, gently. By lifting the heel, the two bones going into the knee are twisting, like a hand would twist at the elbow. That's it. And then rock. Rock from heel to toe. And organize the movement so that one movement is not bigger than the other. Can you modify the movement so that the heel and the toe come up more or less to the same height? One is not higher than the other. Calibration. Heel to toe. And then rest in the position. Just rest your foot, but stay as you are. Is it easier to be like this with the left leg up than it was previously? With the right leg up? Is this your favorite direction? And then go ahead and begin to slowly lift your left foot off the floor. Small approximations. The whole foot and the lower leg. Lift those bones. And feel what is your hip joint doing as you lift the foot in the air like this. What's happening in your pelvis? Does your pelvis roll closer to the floor on the left side when you lift your foot? And don't ignore your long leg. The right leg has a big role in this movement too. So what can you do with the long leg as you lift the left foot away from the floor? And whatever you're doing, can you do it without interfering with your normal breath? So Moshe sometimes used to talk about not corrupting your breathing. And slowly, slowly, the arc through space increases as the foot rolls closer to the ceiling. And you can just let your body be very soft and gooey as you do this. Where does your pubic bone Where does your pubic bone go? The sole of the foot wants to look at the sky. If you had little eyes in the sole of your foot and you wanted to look at the stars, how would that leg move? Remember the breathing. Feel what happens in the leg that's long, where the heel goes. What's happening in the left hip and what's happening in the right hip. Just do what's comfortable. What if you planted your left hand in a push-ups position near your head somewhere? And as your left foot lifted towards the ceiling, could you look under your arm, the window that's created by the standing hand? Could you get a glimpse of the foot as it comes through space? Which means you would need to move your head. Good. Okay, some of you are getting a bit untidy with the movement. So think about the cleanest trajectory through space that the foot can make. The smoothest movement. And leave it, take a rest in a different position. Please lie on your belly if you aren't already there. And put one hand on top of the other so you can rest your forehead on the top hand. Separate your legs a bit wider than usual. Bend your knees. right angles at the knees. And wave your legs left and right together to the same side. Both legs to the left, both to the right. If your feet are banging into things, get them out of the way. Oh, slowly, slowly, slowly. Some of you are racing ahead. Generate the movement from the pelvis now instead of the feet. So the feet follow the pelvis. The hips follow the pelvis. Can you keep the right angles at your knees? Just turn around and see if you have got right angles or if they're more acute than they need to be. If you had a book on your foot, could you keep the book on the foot when the feet are facing the ceiling? That's better. All right, facing the right again, please. Right arm up, left arm down behind you. Put your feet on the floor and slowly roll your pelvis to the left so you can draw up the right leg. Bend your knee, the right knee. Keep facing the right, straighten the right leg and bend the left leg to the left without changing your head. Feel what you need to do in your pelvis, your hips, your spine, and alternate from side to side. Pardon me? Repeat it. So you're lying on your belly facing the right. You bring the right knee up, drag it along the floor, straighten it down, and bring the left knee up. And alternate between those two. No, you're not waving your feet through the air. You're dragging the knee up. The foot and the knee. The foot stays on the floor. Draw the knee up. Now straighten the leg down again. Yes, make it straight. Do not turn your head, but bring the left knee up in a similar way. That's it. And go from side to side like this, slowly. Excuse me? We're going to look to the right the whole time for the moment. Can you do 10 fast movements? Twice the rhythm? 1 and 2 and 3. Don't lose track of what you're doing. Don't lose yourself. Okay, and then stay with the right knee up. Lift the right foot off the floor with the lower leg attached and go onto the knee. Oh, look at the difference in the movement. Do you feel that? So, what could happen with the left leg as you lift your right foot towards the ceiling? What could the left leg do? Play with it. It's a beautiful movement. What could the left foot do? Bring this knee up. Lift this foot. And then lift this one there. Yeah? You saw this in the FI demo that I did yesterday, I think. See if you can remember that moment when both feet are in the air. And the right foot maybe could get closer to the floor on the right of yourself. Mm-hmm. Don't lose the angles in your knees. Good. Lie and rest. Make yourself comfortable while you rest. And is that really comfortable? You know, if you have a dog or a cat, you know how they move around and then they move again and then they move again and then again? They keep going until they find the sweet spot. So keep moving until you feel really comfortable. And if that's not good enough, then move again and find real comfort. Notice how the tone changes when you do find real comfort or better comfort. What tells you that this is comfort? And please roll on your belly again, turning your face to the left. You're lying on the right side of your face. Have both arms above your head at a comfortable angle in the elbows. If this is very uncomfortable for you, find comfort within the discomfort. Looking to the left, draw the left knee along the floor with the left foot, joining the movement by turning your pelvis to the right. So how does the movement change with both hands above your head? Draw the left leg up. Lift the foot so the foot is parallel to the ceiling. When you're ready, let your pelvis roll to the left as you lift your left foot towards the ceiling. Go onto the left knee. At the right moment, lift the right foot. Bend the knee to the right and bring the right foot towards the left foot as you roll your pelvis to the left. Maybe you can touch your left knee with your right foot. Maybe. Keep the knees bent. Good. So, stop the movement of the legs for a minute. And now you're going to go from side to side once, and you can turn your head from side to side. So once you'll bend the left knee, drag the knee up again to the side with the foot on the floor. You're not listening to me. Slide the left knee along the floor. Lift the foot towards the ceiling. Go onto the left knee. Bend your right knee to the right. Take your right foot to the left knee. Now, come back again with both legs straightening. Turn your head to the right and do exactly the same thing on the other side. So reverse the movement and reverse the head position. There's a lot to keep track of in space. So when your head goes to the right knee is going to drag up to the right. That's it. Mm-hmm. In the middle of the movement, both legs straighten. Yeah. And if you want to be in a more exploratory mood, go up onto your elbows and you could look over your right shoulder as your right knee comes up. And maybe the foot can touch the floor. Yeah. You've got to straighten your legs and change the position of the knees. There you go. It's quite a reptilian movement, isn't it? It's not about swinging your feet through the air, side to side. Come up onto your hands or elbows. Some of you prefer the hands. Yeah. There are many, many ways of doing this, I can see. You're being very, very creative. Roll on your back and leave it. That's a lesson that Elizabeth Berenger teaches in her. She's got a wonderful series of CDs. Is it Knees and Hips? I think she just calls it Knees and Hips. And there are 4 lessons, and this is one of them. Anyway, lie on your back. Notice if you have a different sense of where the hip joints are. By the way, did you know that the distance between your hips is the same as the distance between your knees, your ears? The distance between your ears is the same as the distance between your 2 hip joints. Thought for the day. You can have a look on the skeleton later if you don't believe me. You believe me? So, remember how Susan said roll your head as though there's a smell somewhere? So just imagine that there's an apple pie baking somewhere. Can you roll your head to see whether the pie is being baked to the left of you or to the right of you? Roll your head. Follow the scent of the apples and cinnamon, brown sugar, butter, pastry with an egg glaze on the top. Ice cream, vanilla or vanilla? That's the best one. Maybe cream and ice cream. Gluten-free. And now imagine that there are two tiny, tiny, tiny speakers near your ears on the floor, some little tiny music coming out to the left of you and to the right of you. Roll your head by listening for this tiny sound. How does it change the way that you roll your head? And then park your head somewhere where it's comfortable. Roll your right hip inwards and take the leg with the hip. And how does this feel? Is it smoother? Can you go easily from rolling the leg in from the hip to rolling the leg in from the knee, shifting your intention by rolling in from the ankle? Like each movement could start somewhere different. Can you picture the top of the femur rolling into the capsule it lives in the pelvis? Oiling the hip joints. And leave the right leg to be quiet and resting, and begin to roll the left leg in from the hip joint, from the left hip. From the knee, from the foot. And are there any lessons that you did this week that you can think of where this kind of lesson would be complementary? Can you link this movement in the hip joint to something that you did in the last 6 days, which have just flown past? And then roll to the side and bring your hips up to standing when you're ready. One of the things I learned from Alan Christel when I was assisting him many years ago was to wait until the whole class is on their feet before you start asking questions. What do you notice? How is the weight of your feet? Whatever. Wait till everybody's standing. And walk around the room. And keep walking, but can you walk and turn around to look behind yourself to the right? Keep walking in the same direction. Don't lose your direction. But can you walk and turn around yourself to look behind you? Yeah. And can you walk and look up to the right and turn around behind you? You've just seen a bird flying behind you. It's not about turning around. It's about staying on your feet and turning from your feet to look around behind yourself, up to the left, down to the left. Did you drop your $100 note on the floor? Good. Okay. So, Susan, is there anything you want to say?
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Jenny, for inviting me. Yeah? Oh! Oh, I'll have to think of all sorts of new lessons now. I'd love to come back. Yes. Thank you very much and have a wonderful weekend. Rest well. Good night.
Before you